Coach.
Good morning.
You
How you
got
guys?
to, I'm doing well. You got to Iowa City just as Joe Evans was going into his redshirt freshman year. What have you seen from him to take him from a walk-on linebacker who had never played on the line to a team captain, an all Big Ten performer, and a guy who I have to imagine is going to be in an NFL camp at some point in his future?
Well, that's what we're hoping for, and I know that's what he's hoping for. It's just been an amazing transformation. He's, to his credit, it's been a lot of it due just to his hard work. He came in here, just before I arrived, like you said, and just has worked his tail off, and really is a product of the system in terms of just learning, growing, maturing. A lot of that has to do with the things that he accomplished down in the weight room. Just in terms of his growth as far as explosiveness, strength, power, speed. He's changed his body a lot over the course of that time. Has endured some injuries, just not major things, but little nicks along the way, and things that D linemen are accustomed to playing with. He's battled through that. A lot of that again due to his toughness and just the training that he's put in over the course of his time here. It's been phenomenal. It's been fun to watch. He's a great guy.
Tom Caker.
You skipped Chad. That's okay.
It's all right. I'm used to it.
That's okay. Coach, I wanted to ask you about Merriweather, Breakney, those guys, the redshirt guys, what they've been like for you, and what have you seen in their development?
Yeah, we've got a couple of them. Kenny Merriweather is a really twitched up guy. He's going to be fun to watch. He's got a lot of not personal, but physical growth, I should say, that he needs to go through just in terms of putting on some size and strength. But he's got really good length. Like I say, he moves really well. He's a flexible guy. He's already shown up in pass rush in terms of just having a real knack for rushing the passer, and we haven't even begun to scratch the surface on, really coaching him up on the finer details of how to get better in that area. So, really, really anxious to watch him improve and grow over the course of his career here. Chase has been real steady. He's a big, strong guy. Really anxious to learn. And all these guys, including Maddox Borcherding Johnson, who's the other guy, in that class. Those guys are working hard, and like all these other guys, like Joe Evans, who we referenced here just a minute ago, going to be a product of the system, just coming in and doing everything day in and day out that other guys have been asked to do over the course of their careers here. And as they do that, I think you'll see their fundamental base improve, and their opportunity for playing time will be directly related to that. But hardworking guys, fun to be around, very coachable, fit right into our room, just like the others who preceded them.
Okay, go ahead, Chad.
Hi, Jay. Good morning.
Good morning, Chad.
Yeah, unique quarterback preparation. Illinois got a red hot backup, but today they announced that Luke Altmaier will start. I don't know if you believe that, but how do you go about preparing for this type of situation? Because I imagine you might see both on Saturday.
I would expect to see both unless Altmaier is the starter and does come out and is just red hot, which obviously we hope he's not. But, um, you know, that it doesn't appear as though they changed a lot from as far as their system between the two quarterbacks. But Altmaier is probably a little bit more mobile and is very, very dangerous with his feet. He gets out of the pocket and runs on people, although they scored moving out of the pocket in the last play of the game in overtime last week to beat Indiana on the last play of the game by breaking, containing, getting outside the pocket. Wasn't necessarily that the end was in such bad position as much as he just didn't have the athletic, skill set to keep the guy in the pocket, because those guys can really run and move, and they're just both really good, honestly, at extending plays with their feet. Very, maneuverable guys in the pocket, and have a real good idea where their receivers are at, and do a good job of getting the ball to them. So, again, I don't know that we'll change much X's and O's wise, depending on whichever one is in there. You just have to know what they like to do, one more so than the other. And that's kind of how we got to go about it.
All right, next question is from John Steppe.
Hey, Jay, good to see you.
Good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning. So with Noah Shannon obviously not being able to contribute on the field, how have you seen him kind of contribute off the field this year in the defensive line room?
Well, he's with just a couple of exceptions with some of the things that have been going on with him. He's been in the meeting room every day. He's been out on the practice field. He's basically like a coach, if you will, from the standpoint that he's been in the system so long and knows all the the intricacies of the nose and the tackle positions that he's able to pull guys aside after a play and say, look, you should have done this or that, or you should have seen this or that. He's been plugged in. He's been great. He's not a real super vocal guy if you get to know him. So it's not like, you had this big voice that all of a sudden wasn't there. He's pretty subtle in his approach, but there's just a tremendous amount of respect for him in this building, as well as in the D line room, of course. But he's done a great job of staying plugged in, and despite some of the difficulties that he's encountered, he's really been good for the guys and stuck right with it. So we appreciate loving having him in here every day.
Next question is from Scott Docterman.
Good morning, Jay. I hope you're doing well.
Thank you. You as well.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about kind of in-state recruiting in the current true freshman class. Last year was a tough year, I guess, for you guys. You lost some head-to-heads, but then this year you doubled up. Signing day still a month away, but you've gotten, I think, 7 out of the top 8 recruits in the state. Was there a different kind of did you guys double your efforts or do anything differently in recruiting, or was it just a matter of kind of the recruit's preference as to how you ended up with just an overall huge swath of players from the in-state this year?
Well, no, I don't think our approach has changed at all. What drives them to decide to come here, whether it's personal preference for, the school or a certain coach or a style of play. I don't know exactly. Each guy's decision is probably based on something just a little bit different. But we've just kind of stuck to our method and done what we have done. And fortunately, if we can follow through and get all these guys to come and sign with us in December when that date rolls around, then it will be a good class. But it's going to fluctuate a little bit from year to year, probably just based on the numbers of guys available out there and what it is they're looking for out of their experience in college football and in a school. But short answer to your question is no, I don't know that we've done anything differently.
Coach, next question is from Cooper Worth.
Good morning, Jet. I was just kind of shifting more towards the secondary. I just want your thoughts on Quinn Schulte. I know he's a guy who's been in the program for a while, and just your thoughts on how you've seen him grow and kind of make an impact for the defense to make the job easier for the front four.
Well, Quinn's a great guy, and he's another success story. Much like Joe Evans, came in here, worked his tail off, climbed his way up the ladder just through hard work, and just being a coachable guy who does what the program asks of him day in and day out. He's instrumental in doing with what we have to do on the back end defensively, which also ties into the linebackers and eventually the front. The free safety and the Mike linebacker probably have the most control, if you will, of checks, front checks, coverage checks, overall defensive adjustment checks, things that we have to do to get ourselves lined up and ready to play. And I know the casual observer out there kind of views Iowa as a vanilla kind of a defense, but we're pretty far from it in all honesty. And we've evolved a little bit, changed some things over the course of the time that I've been here, and it's been fun to watch and be a part of. But I can just tell you this, that guys that play his position, they have to have great football IQ. They have to have some leadership skills. He has both of those. And on top of that, he's made some really clutch plays for us and has just been really consistent and steady back there. And it takes somebody with a lot of moxie and a good football IQ to keep everything going and staying in sync on the back end. So he's done really well for us.
Our next question is from Tom Kakert.
Coach, more of a kind of a personal question, but what's your Sundays like with with the last few years with two sons in the NFL and your job responsibilities at the University of Iowa?
It's a tough balancing act. I'm not sure there's as much balance there as what I would like on the personal side because we're so tied up with what we've got to do on Sundays. Sundays are a transitional day because in the morning, we usually come in and get the film graded from the previous night and spend up until about noon doing that. And then in the afternoon, we start to transition. We watch the film with the players and then transition on to the next opponent. Busy looking at film to try to get ready for our Sunday night meetings because we practice in the mornings every day, as you know. But Monday morning rolls around on you pretty quick. But we do have a little bit of flex time in the afternoon on Sunday. And if I can, if one of the boys' games is on major network television, then I'll try to sneak some peeks at it. It's best for me if they're playing Sunday night or Monday night because then I might have a chance to watch a little bit more of it. And I do have a subscription to the NFL Game Pass, so if I miss it altogether, I can just watch it whenever I want to once the week is over with. My wife and I were able to get down to Kansas City to watch the Chargers play the Chiefs the day after the beginning of our bye week is what it was. So thankful for that. And sometimes towards the end of the year, once we get into postseason, just depending on what we've got going on in conjunction with when they're playing, hopefully I have the opportunity to get away and see another couple games. So we make it work however we can.
All right, Coach, we'll go 4 more questions. First one's from Tyler Tashman.
Okay.
Hey, Jay, hope you're doing well. Was just curious about Ethan Herkett as a guy that, has been a contributor this season. How have you just kind of seen him develop over his time at Iowa?
Ethan's been fun to coach and great. Another example of a guy who has just continued to climb through hard work and really just seeing his fundamental base grow. We consider him a starter. He plays just about equal reps with Joe Evans and Deontay Craig. And, he's playing some really good football for us right now. Really physical guy, very steady, very few mental errors. Just a real positive force for us in there. And like I said, playing excellent football. And his best days are still out in front of him. He's just continuing to climb. So we're really happy with the progress he's made and how he's playing.
Chad Lystico.
Hey, Jay, one more for me. You haven't had a ton of turnovers this year. It's kind of different from some previous teams. So how would you describe kind of the identity of this defense maybe versus some of those more ball hawking defenses? Or do you feel like the turnovers are bound to come at some point?
We'll run out of time, so I hope they come pretty soon. Turnovers it's kind of funny. And it's kind of cliche, but they seem to come in bunches. And why that is, I'm not absolutely sure. I do think that some of our interception numbers, over the course of time are due to the fact that we're top heavy in zone coverage. So we get a lot of eyes back on the quarterback, even though those numbers may not be quite as good this year as they've been in previous years. It's not because we've changed anything about how we practice or just how we are systematically. It just a lot of times comes through guys being super aggressive and opportunistic, and hopefully with several games yet to play, we'll really see that number, jump up, and we'll be able to get some bunches because you're right. There's no arguing the point that it's been a little bit up and down. So hopefully we can get that back in the right direction.
Scott Docterman.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about Y.A. Black. His numbers are not super imposing, but yet playing, a lot of 2 gap and playing where he is. You don't ask him to do that. That's where Jay Higgins gets those numbers in a lot of cases. But how dominant is there a way to kind of show how dominant he is without necessarily looking at the numbers? Because he seems to be playing as well as most defensive tackles in the league.
He's playing really good football for us, and you're right, Chad. You just can't. There's no statistic to back up what he does. So Scott, sorry, he's just disruptive. If you have to put the film on to appreciate what he does, he knocks the line of scrimmage back. which is really what we want to do. We're obviously we have gap responsibilities and things of that nature, but we're more concerned about being able to push the line of scrimmage back, and he does a great job of that. He had a critical sack here 2 games back, just through knockback against the guard that was pass proing him, and came off and made a nice play, had a good sack in the game. And it just his size, his physicality, and I've said this before about him, and I'll say it again. I think he's probably got the highest football IQ in our entire room. He's a very, very smart football player. Understands protections, understands blocking schemes, understands pre-snap body language from the offense. Just a very sharp player, and good to see him get through this season, without getting nicked up. He's had so many injuries that he's dealt with in the past, and I think we're seeing everything we expected we could see if we would get him healthy, and string together a progression of games where he could just keep going without injury. So hopefully he continues along those lines, and he's having a real good year.
All right, Coach. Last question will be from Elliot Clough.
Morning, Jay. I don't think we've met, so I'm Elliot. Obviously, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Ontario Thompson is a guy that on special teams, it just seems like you have to make sure you're watching every time that the opposing team is punting. Also, just kind of an athletic freak from what we've seen. How have you seen him grow? And is he a guy that Hawkeye fans should definitely be aware of, especially going into next season when you may lose some guys on the D line?
Well, I'm not going to put those expectations on him for next year. Obviously, that's our hope, but that'll come through hard work and just begin to understand the intricacies of his position a little bit more. But he's a very athletic guy for his size, very explosive. As you mentioned, that as you referenced, that's showing up in special teams already with being in on 2 block punts. For a guy who is as tall and heavy as he is, he moves exceptionally well. So hopefully all those physical qualities and traits will translate over into playing the D line, and it just seems like something that ought to be automatic, but it's not. You have to learn how to be able to use your power, your strength, your size, through being fundamentally polished. And right now, like any other new player to our program, it takes time for guys to learn how to do that. But he's making good progress. He's contributing in the ways right now that he can, which is through special teams. And then we did get him out there towards the tail end of the game last week. Actually, he was involved in the last stop of the game. Did a really nice job in a line stunt with one of our ends, and had a good rush. So it's good to get him out there, get his feet wet. Hopefully we'll be able to do more and more of that as we go. And again, he's going to be just like these other new guys, like I said, where the more he plays and the more he practices, the more he just stays locked into our system. The better off he's going to be, and the more you'll see his progress come along.
All right, Coach. Thank you. I appreciate your time this morning.